They threw away everything I owned. My wedding dress, my husband's clothes, photos of 3 generations. Family heirlooms worth thousands of dollars, all of it, tossed in the trash like garbage, and I watched every single moment on hidden cameras from my hospital bed. I'm 68 years old, and I own a beautiful Victorian home in Savannah's historic district that's been in my family for 3 generations. My son Marcus and his wife Jessica had been eyeing that house for years, asking when I planned to sell, hinting that I was getting too old to maintain it, suggesting I move to something smaller. I always said no. That house held 90 years of family memories. My grandparents bought it in 1932. I was born in the upstairs bedroom. I raised my son there. My husband died in our bedroom 10 years ago. That house was my life. Every corner held a memory I wasn't ready to lose. A year ago, after some valuable items started mysteriously disappearing when Marcus and Jessica visited, I installed hidden cameras. 5 of them throughout the house. Just a precaution. I never imagined I'd need them the way I did. 2 months ago, I had a stroke. Nothing major, but serious enough to land me in the hospital for 2 weeks, followed by 4 weeks in a rehabilitation facility. I was confused, weak, struggling to recover. Marcus had a key to my house, for emergencies, to check on things while I was gone. Instead, he and Jessica decided I was never coming back. They decided my house was now theirs, and they decided everything I owned was trash. For 6 weeks, I lay in that hospital bed and rehabilitation center, watching on my phone as they systematically destroyed my entire life. Before I tell you what I did when I walked through my front door and caught them measuring for renovations, and trust me, the shock on their faces was priceless. I need to hear from you. Drop a comment right now telling me what city you're watching from. Are you in Atlanta? Miami? Los Angeles? New York? Let me know in the comments below. And if this is your first time here, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. We post new stories like this every single day. Real family drama, real consequences, real justice. You don't want to miss what happens next. My name is Estelle Williams. This is my story. I've lived in Savannah, Georgia my entire life. Born and raised in the same Victorian house on East Jones Street that my grandparents purchased in 1932 for $3,000. That house is now worth $450,000. It sits in the historic district, surrounded by live oak trees and Spanish moss, with original heart pine floors, 12-foot ceilings, and a wraparound porch that my grandfather built with his own hands. I spent 68 years in that house. Every birthday, every Christmas, every milestone of my life happened within those walls. My husband Thomas and I raised our son Marcus there. Thomas was an architect. He lovingly restored the house over 30 years, preserving the original features while updating what needed updating. When he died of cancer 10 years ago, that house became even more precious to me. It held his memory in every room. Marcus was our only child. We gave him everything: college education, down payment on his first house, help when he needed it. He became a real estate agent, which I was proud of. He understood the value of homes, of history, of preservation, or so I thought. Marcus married Jessica 15 years ago. She was young, ambitious, and had big ideas about flipping properties and maximizing value. She called herself an interior designer, though as far as I could tell, that meant she watched a lot of HGTV and had opinions about paint colors. From the beginning, Jessica looked at my house differently than I did. She didn't see history or memories. She saw square footage and market value. "Estelle, have you thought about what you'll do with this place?" she'd ask during visits. "It's a lot of house for one person." "I'm fine, Jessica. This is my home. But the maintenance, the taxes, the utilities. Wouldn't you be more comfortable in a nice condo? Something modern? With an elevator?" "I don't need an elevator. I'm 68, not 98, but she kept pushing. Every visit, another comment, another suggestion, another hint that I should sell. Marcus would join in, more gently. "Mom, Jessica has a point. What if something happens to you? What if you fall and can't get help? I have my phone. I have neighbors. I'm fine. But this house will be so much work to sell after eventually. Wouldn't it be easier to handle it now?" Eventually, they were already planning for my death. About 2 years ago, I started noticing things missing. Small things at first. A silver picture frame, a set of antique salt and pepper shakers, A small painting that had hung in the hallway. I thought I was misplacing things, getting forgetful. But then my mother's pearl brooch disappeared, the one I kept in my jewelry box. I knew exactly where it was. And then it wasn't. I asked Marcus if he'd seen it. He said no. Jessica said maybe I'd moved it and forgotten, but I hadn't forgotten. Someone had taken it. More items disappeared over the next 6 months. A first edition book from my collection, a Waterford crystal vase, small antique items that Marcus and Jessica would have seen during their visits. I couldn't prove anything. But I knew. So a year ago I called a security company, told them I wanted cameras for safety. The technician suggested hidden cameras, small ones that looked like smoke detectors, picture frames, alarm clocks. I installed 5 of them. Living room, kitchen, master bedroom, hallway, garage. I didn't tell Marcus or Jessica. I just wanted to know if my suspicions were correct. The cameras sat there for months, recording nothing significant. Marcus and Jessica visited once a month, had coffee, chatted, left. Everything seemed normal. Then 2 months ago, on a Tuesday morning, I woke up and couldn't move my right arm. My face felt strange. My words came out slurred. I was having a stroke. I managed to call 911. The ambulance came. They rushed me to Memorial Hospital. Marcus met me there. He looked worried, concerned, like a good son should be. "Mom, you're going to be okay. They caught it early. You're going to be fine." I spent 2 weeks in the hospital. The stroke was mild, but at my age, recovery takes time. The doctors said I'd need rehabilitation, physical therapy, occupational therapy, speech therapy. They transferred me to a rehabilitation facility. 4 weeks minimum, they said. Maybe 6. I gave Marcus my house key. "Just check on things. Make sure everything's okay. Water the plants?" "Of course, Mom. Don't worry about anything. Just focus on getting better." I trusted him. He was my son. Why wouldn't I trust him? 3 days after I arrived at the rehabilitation facility, still weak and confused, struggling to use my right hand, I remembered the cameras. I had the app on my phone. I could check the house remotely, see if everything was okay. I opened the app, selected the living room camera, and I saw Marcus and Jessica standing in my living room, looking around with expressions I'd never seen on their faces before. They weren't checking on the house. They were evaluating it, like real estate agents assessing a property. Jessica walked around, touching furniture, opening drawers. "We should call an estate sale company. Get rid of all this old stuff," Marcus nodded. "Yeah, clear it out, stage it properly. We can list it for $475,000. I sat in my rehabilitation bed, one hand barely functional, watching my son plan to sell my house while I was still alive. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I replayed the video 3 times, thinking I'd misunderstood. But no. My son and his wife were standing in my living room, planning to sell my house while I was in rehabilitation, recovering from a stroke. I switched to the kitchen camera. Jessica was opening cabinets, pulling out my grandmother's china, the set that had been in our family since 1880. "Look at this old stuff," she said, holding up a teacup. "Nobody uses china anymore. We should just donate it, or trash it. Some of it might be worth something," Marcus said. "Let me take photos, check eBay. My grandmother's china. The set she brought from Charleston when she married my grandfather. The set we used for every Thanksgiving, every Christmas, every special occasion for 90 years. They were talking about throwing it away." I wanted to call Marcus immediately, demand to know what he was doing. But I was too weak, too confused. My speech was still slurred. And part of me didn't want to believe this was real. Maybe I was misunderstanding. Maybe they were just talking hypothetically, planning for the future, not actually doing anything, so I waited, and I watched. The next day, Marcus and Jessica came back. This time, they brought boxes and garbage bags. I watched on my phone from my rehabilitation bed as Jessica walked into my bedroom, the room I'd slept in for 40 years, the room where Thomas died, and started opening my closet. She pulled out Thomas's clothes, the shirts I'd kept, the jacket he wore to Marcus's wedding, his favorite sweater. "Why is she still keeping her dead husband's clothes?" Jessica said, shoving them into a garbage bag. "It's been 10 years. This is creepy. Just pack it up," Marcus said from the doorway. "We'll drop everything at Goodwill." I watched my husband's clothes, the last physical pieces of him I had, being thrown into trash bags like they meant nothing. I tried to call Marcus. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the phone. When he answered, I could barely speak. Marcus, Mom? Are you okay? You sound upset. The house, my things. Mom, don't worry about the house. I'm taking care of everything. You just focus on getting better, okay? I'll call you later. He hung up and went right back to packing up my life. Over the next week, I watched them come to my house every single day. They went through my closets, my drawers, my cabinets. They packed up everything. Dishes, books, clothes, linens, decorations. They weren't being careful. They weren't preserving memories. They were clearing out a property. I saw Jessica throw away photo albums, actual albums filled with pictures of my parents, my grandparents, my childhood, Marcus as a baby. She didn't even look at them, just tossed them in the trash. Nobody looks at physical photos anymore, she said. Everything's digital now. Those photos didn't exist digitally. They were the only copies. 90 years of family history, gone. I saw Marcus take my collection of first edition books I'd collected over 40 years of teaching English, and load them into his car. Not to save them, to sell them. Later, I saw him Googling "Sell Rare Books Savannah" and texting someone. Got about 200 old books. Some first editions. Can you give me a quote? Books I'd treasured. Books I'd read to Marcus when he was a child. Books that represented my entire career as a teacher. He was selling them for cash. But the worst moment came 2 weeks into my rehabilitation. I was watching the living room camera when Jessica walked in carrying my wedding dress. The dress I'd worn 50 years ago when I married Thomas. The dress I'd carefully preserved in a garment bag in my closet. She held it up, laughing. Who keeps their wedding dress for 50 years? This thing is ancient. Look at these shoulder pads. Marcus came into view. What are you going to do with it? Trash it. Nobody wants a 50-year-old wedding dress. She walked out of frame. I switched to the garage camera and watched her throw my wedding dress into a black garbage bag, the dress I'd worn on the happiest day of my life. The dress I'd hoped to maybe pass down to a granddaughter someday. Treated like garbage, I cried in that rehabilitation bed. Cried so hard a nurse came to check on me. Mrs. Williams, what's wrong? Are you in pain? I couldn't explain. How could I tell her my son was throwing away my entire life while I was too weak to stop him? After that, I stopped trying to call Marcus. What was the point? He'd just tell me not to worry, that he was handling things. Instead, I watched. Every day I watched the cameras, documenting everything. They brought in a cleaning crew. I watched strangers go through my house, throwing away things they didn't understand. A quilt my mother made. Thrown away. My husband's fishing rods. Thrown away. 40 years of teaching awards and certificates. Thrown away, Jessica supervised, pointing at things. Trash, trash. That can go. That's junk. Trash. My entire life reduced to junk. By week 4, my house was nearly empty. The furniture was mostly gone, sold, or donated. The walls were bare. The closets were empty. They'd erased me, and then I heard Jessica say something that made my blood run cold. She was on the phone with someone, standing in my empty living room. Yeah, we can list it next week. The owner's in a nursing home. Probably not coming back. Early dementia, stroke, the whole thing. We have power of attorney. They didn't have power of attorney. I'd never signed anything. We're thinking $475,000. Historic district, original features, fully renovated. Should sell quick. They were going to sell my house. While I was still alive. Without my permission, that's when I decided. I wasn't staying in rehabilitation any longer. I was going home. I called my doctor the next morning. I want to go home. Mrs. Williams, you've made great progress, but we recommend at least 2 more weeks. I'm going home. Today, if possible. Tomorrow at the latest. Are you sure you're ready? Do you have someone to help you at home? I thought about Marcus and Jessica, probably at my house right now, throwing away more of my life. I'll be fine. I can manage. The doctor wasn't happy, but I was legally allowed to leave. I signed the discharge papers against medical advice. A nurse gave me instructions for continuing physical therapy at home, a list of warning signs to watch for, and a prescription for blood thinners. I called a taxi. I didn't call Marcus. I wanted the element of surprise. During the taxi ride home, I watched the cameras on my phone one more time. Marcus and Jessica were at my house. They'd brought a real estate photographer. I watched him taking pictures of my empty rooms, my bare walls, my house staged and sterile and stripped of everything that made it mine. Jessica was giving him directions. Make sure you get the original moldings. And the fireplace. Play up the historic details. They were listing my house. Today, right now. The taxi pulled up to my house at 2:47 p.m. I paid the driver and stood on the sidewalk, looking at my home. The home I was born in. The home I thought I'd die in. There were 2 cars in my driveway. Marcus's Toyota and a white SUV I didn't recognize. Probably the photographer. I walked slowly up the front steps. My right leg was still weak. My cane helped, but every step was an effort. I used my key, the one they didn't know I had on me at the hospital, and opened my front door. The living room was empty. Completely empty. The furniture was gone. The curtains were gone. The family photos that had hung on the walls for decades were gone. It looked like a house that had been foreclosed on, abandoned, dead. I heard voices upstairs. Marcus, Jessica, and a man I didn't recognize. The master bedroom is really the showpiece, Jessica was saying. Original crown molding, heart pine floors, walk-in closet that we cleaned out and updated. Cleaned out. She meant emptied, erased. I climbed the stairs. It took me 5 minutes. My legs screamed with every step. But I made it to the 2nd floor. The master bedroom door was open. I could see them inside. Marcus, Jessica, and a young man with a professional camera. I walked into the doorway and stood there. Just stood there, silent. The photographer saw me first. He looked confused. Folks? There's someone here. Marcus turned around. When he saw me, his face went white. Mom, how, you're supposed to be in rehab. Surprise, I said quietly. I'm not dead yet. Jessica's mouth literally dropped open. Estelle, we thought you weren't supposed to. I wasn't supposed to what? Come home to my own house? I walked further into the room. My bedroom. The room where Thomas and I slept for 40 years. Now completely empty except for these 3 people and a camera. What are you doing in my house? Marcus found his voice. Mom, we were trying to help. Help? By throwing away everything I own? By selling my house while I'm still alive? The photographer backed toward the door. I'll wait outside. No, I turned to him. You can stay. You can witness this. In fact, take a photo. Document this moment. He looked terrified. I turned back to Marcus and Jessica. I've been watching you. Every single day for the past 6 weeks. I have cameras in this house. Hidden cameras. And I've recorded everything you've done. Jessica's face flushed red. You've been spying on us? Spying? On people breaking into my house? Stealing my belongings? Yes, I've been documenting crime. We didn't break in, Marcus said defensively. I have a key. You gave it to me, for emergencies. To check on the house, not to empty it and sell it without my knowledge or permission. Mom, you had a stroke. You were confused. We were trying to help prepare for what, my death? I'm 68 years old and I had a mild stroke. I'm not dying. I'm standing right here. Jessica stepped forward. Estelle, you have to understand. That house is too much for you. You can't maintain it. We were trying to help you transition to something more manageable. By throwing away my wedding dress, my husband's clothes, my mother's china, my family photos, she had the decency to look away. I watched you, Jessica. I watched you laugh at my wedding dress and throw it in the trash. I watched you toss photo albums without even looking at them. I watched you call my entire life junk. I didn't mean, yes, you did. You meant every word. Because to you, this house isn't a home. It's a real estate opportunity. And I was just an obstacle in the way. I pulled out my phone. I have videos. Hours of them. You stealing my belongings. You throwing away irreplaceable family heirlooms. You planning to sell my house without my permission. You telling people you have power of attorney when you don't? Marcus's face went from white to gray. Mom, please what? Please don't report you to the police? Please don't show these videos to a lawyer? Please just let you get away with it? We're family. Family doesn't do what you did to me. The photographer mumbled something about having another appointment and practically ran out of the house. I heard his car start up and drive away within 30 seconds. Now it was just the 3 of us. Me, my son, and his wife. In my empty house, where is everything? I asked quietly. Where are my things? Marcus looked at the floor. Some of it we donated, some we sold. Some you threw in the trash. Mom, it was mostly old stuff. Things you didn't need. Things I didn't need. You threw away my wedding dress. You threw away photos of your grandparents. You sold my book collection, books I spent 40 years collecting. You threw away your father's clothes. Marcus flinched at that. Where's my mother's china? I asked. Jessica answered. We donated it to Goodwill. China from 1880. A complete set. Worth at least $3,000. You donated it to Goodwill? We didn't know it was worth. You didn't bother to find out. You just assumed it was worthless and got rid of it. I pulled up my phone, opened the video app. Let me show you something. I played a clip. Jessica in my bedroom, holding up Thomas's favorite fishing jacket. Why does she keep this old thing? It smells like a lake. I played another clip. Marcus in the garage, loading boxes of my teaching materials into his truck. All this school stuff is garbage. Just pitch it. Another clip. Jessica on the phone. Yeah, we're clearing out the whole house. Old lady had a stroke, probably not coming back. We can list it by the end of the month. I played clip after clip. Their voices, their words, their casual cruelty toward my possessions, my memories, my life. Marcus was crying by the third video. Mom, I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. We just thought, you thought I was dying. You thought I'd never come home. So you decided to help yourselves to my house. We were trying to help you. By stealing from me? By planning to sell my house without my permission? How exactly is that helping? You can't take care of this house anymore. You're 68. You had a stroke. What if it happens again? What if you fall? What if something happens and you're here alone? That's my choice to make, not yours. I pointed around the empty room. You had no right to do this. None. This is my house. My life, my decision. Jessica crossed her arms. So what now? You're going to call the police? Have your own son arrested? I should. What you did is theft. It's elder abuse. It's fraud. You told people you had power of attorney when you don't. You stole items worth thousands of dollars. You attempted to sell property that isn't yours. We didn't steal. Yes, you did. My voice rose for the first time. You took my belongings without permission and disposed of them. That's theft. The videos prove it. Marcus sank down onto the floor, sitting against the empty wall. What do you want, Mom? What can we do to make this right? You can't make it right. You threw away things I can never get back. My wedding dress is gone. My photo albums are gone. My first edition books are gone. 40 years of my teaching career is gone. My husband's clothes are gone. I felt tears starting but forced them back. I wouldn't cry in front of them. The things you sold, my mother's jewelry, my father's watch collection, my books. Where's the money? Marcus and Jessica looked at each other. Well, we had expenses. How much did you make selling my belongings? Silence. How much? Jessica finally answered. About $8,000. $8,000. You stole $8,000 worth of my property. Do you have that money? We spent some of it. Of course you did. I pulled out my phone again. I've already contacted a lawyer. I'm suing you for the value of everything you stole or destroyed. Conservative estimates put it at $50,000. That includes the jewelry, the books, the china, the furniture, the irreplaceable family heirlooms. $50,000. Jessica's voice went shrill. We don't have that kind of money. You should have thought of that before you robbed me. Mom, please. Marcus was still sitting on the floor, looking defeated. We'll pay you back, however long it takes. But please don't sue us. Please. Why shouldn't I? Give me one good reason. Because I'm your son. And that's supposed to excuse what you did? He had no answer. I looked at both of them. My son, his wife, people I'd trusted, people I'd helped financially over the years, people I'd given everything to, and they'd repaid me by trying to steal my home. You have 24 hours to return every single item you sold that can be recovered. The furniture, the books, whatever you can get back, you get back. The money you made from selling my things, all $8,000, you will pay back within 30 days. We can't. You'll find a way. Sell your car. Take out a loan. I don't care. You stole from me. You pay it back. I walked toward the door, then turned back. And I want my key. Right now. Marcus pulled my house key off his keyring and handed it to me. His hand was shaking. You're not welcome in this house anymore. Either of you. If you come back, I'll call the police for trespassing. Do you understand? Mom, do you understand? Yes, I looked at Jessica. Do you understand? She nodded, lips pressed tight, furious but knowing she had no ground to stand on. 24 hours to return what you can. 30 days for the money. After that, I'm filing the lawsuit. My lawyer already has all the videos. Don't test me. I walked out of my empty bedroom, down the stairs, and stood in my empty living room. This was my home, and I was taking it back. After they left, I sat on the floor of my empty living room and cried, not because I regretted confronting them, but because of what was gone, forever, my wedding dress. The dress I'd worn when I promised to love Thomas for the rest of my life, photo albums. 3 generations of family photos that didn't exist anywhere else. My mother's jewelry. Pieces she'd worn that her mother had worn before her. Thomas's clothes. The last physical pieces of him I'd had, Olive. Gone. I pulled out my phone and called the lawyer I'd contacted 3 days earlier when I'd decided to leave rehabilitation early. His name was Robert Chen. He specialized in elder law and had excellent reviews. Mrs. Williams. How did the confrontation go? I have them on video admitting to everything. They sold about $8,000 worth of my belongings. They can't account for most of what they threw away. Did they return your house key? Yes. Good. I'm filing the lawsuit tomorrow. Based on the videos you sent me, we have a very strong case. Theft, conversion of property, elder abuse, attempted fraud regarding the power of attorney claim. What kind of timeline are we looking at? Civil cases can take months, but with video evidence this clear, they'll likely want to settle. I'm estimating they'll owe you $50,000 in damages, possibly more. They don't have that kind of money. Then they'll make payments. Or they'll have wage garnishments. They created this situation, Mrs. Williams. They'll have to deal with the consequences. Over the next 24 hours, Marcus made 3 trips to my house. Each time he knocked, each time I opened the door just wide enough to take what he brought. He returned some furniture, a couch, 2 chairs, my dining table, a bookshelf. He returned about 50 of my books. The used bookstore still had some of them, he said quietly. The rest they'd already sold. I'd had over 200 first edition books. I got back 50. He returned some kitchen items, pots and pans, dishes, not my mother's china. That was gone, but at least I had something to eat off of. He didn't return any clothes. Not mine, not Thomas's, all in landfills by now. He didn't return the photo albums. Gone forever. He didn't return my mother's jewelry. Sold to pawn shops, scattered to the wind. He didn't return my wedding dress. Thrown away like trash. On the 3rd trip, he handed me an envelope. It's $3,000. It's all we have right now. We'll get you the rest. I promise. You have 27 days left. I know. Mom, I closed the door. That night, I slept in my house for the first time in 6 weeks. On my returned couch because my bed was gone. Surrounded by mostly empty rooms, but it was my house, mine, and I was protecting it now. I changed all the locks. Installed a security system with an alarm. Added more cameras, these ones visible, so anyone who came to my door would know they were being recorded. I called my bank and made sure Marcus's name was removed from any accounts where I'd previously listed him as a backup. Changed my will to remove him as executor. Changed my beneficiaries. If anything happened to me now, everything would go to charity. Marcus would get nothing. A week later, Robert Chen called. They want to settle. How much are they offering? $20,000 paid over 2 years. That's less than half what they stole. I know. I told them we'd see them in court. 2 weeks later, they came back with a better offer. $35,000 over 3 years. Take it, I told Robert. We could get more. I don't want to spend years fighting with my son in court. I want this over. I want them out of my life. I want to move on. Are you sure? I'm sure. The settlement was finalized 3 weeks after I'd walked back into my house. Marcus and Jessica would pay me $35,000 over 3 years. The first payment was due immediately. They delivered a cashier's check for $3,000 to my lawyer's office. The initial payment, plus the $3,000 Marcus had already given me, meant they'd paid $6,000 so far. They had $29,000 left to go. Robert also got a restraining order as part of the settlement. Marcus and Jessica were not allowed to contact me or come within 500 feet of my property unless I gave explicit permission. If they violated it, they'd face criminal charges. A month after the confrontation, I sat in my living room, still mostly empty, but slowly being refurnished with things I was buying secondhand, and I thought about everything I'd lost. My wedding dress, my photos, my mother's jewelry, Thomas's clothes, my book collection, family heirlooms that had survived 90 years, only to be thrown away by my own son. I would never get those things back. The money couldn't replace them. Nothing could. But I'd gotten something else. Something maybe more important. I'd gotten my power back, my autonomy, my home. I was 68 years old. I'd had a stroke. I was weaker than I'd been before, but I was still here, still standing, still fighting, and my son had learned a very expensive lesson. You don't steal from someone just because you think they're weak. Sometimes the weak surprise you. The first monthly payment arrived on time, $1,000, exactly as the settlement required. The second one was late by a week. My lawyer sent a formal notice. The payment arrived 2 days later. The third payment came with a note from Marcus. Mom, I know I can't undo what I did. I know sorry isn't enough, but I am sorry. Every day I'm sorry. I miss you, Marcus. I threw the note away. Deposited the check. Over the next 6 months, I slowly rebuilt my house. Not to what it was, that was impossible, but to something livable. I bought furniture from estate sales and consignment shops. A new bed, a new couch, new dishes to replace my grandmother's irreplaceable china. I bought frames and printed old photos I'd scanned years ago. At least I had digital copies of some pictures. Not all, but some. I couldn't replace Thomas's clothes. I couldn't replace my wedding dress. I couldn't replace the first edition books or my mother's jewelry or the quilt my grandmother made, but I made my house a home again. My neighbors were incredible. When word got around about what happened, and in historic Savannah, word always gets around, they rallied. Mrs. Patterson from next door brought over dishes and linens. I have extras. Please take them. Mr. and Mrs. Okafor across the street invited me to dinner once a week. You shouldn't be eating alone all the time. The Hendersons 3 houses down installed a Ring doorbell for me as a gift. Extra security. We'll sleep better knowing you have it. My church community stepped in too. People I'd known for 40 years brought casseroles, offered to drive me to physical therapy, checked on me regularly. I realized something I hadn't fully understood before. Family isn't just blood. Family is the people who show up for you, who care about you, who don't steal from you when you're vulnerable. My actual blood family had betrayed me, but my chosen family, my neighbors, my church, my community, they saved me. 3 months after the confrontation, Marcus showed up at my door. I saw him on my new doorbell camera before I opened it. Mom, please. Can we talk? The restraining order says you can't be here. You can give permission. Please, 5 minutes. Against my better judgment, I opened the door. Didn't invite him in, just stood in the doorway. What do you want, Marcus? I want to apologize. Really apologize. Not in a note. Face to face. Okay? Apologize. I'm sorry. What I did was wrong. Unforgivable. You trusted me and I betrayed that trust. I let Jessica convince me that we were helping you, but I knew better. I knew what we were doing was wrong and I did it anyway. Why? Because I wanted this house. I've always wanted it. And when you had the stroke, I thought this was my chance. I'm ashamed of myself. I'm disgusted by what I did, and I understand if you never forgive me. I appreciate the apology, but you're right. I won't forgive you. Not for this, his eyes filled with tears. Never? You threw away my wedding dress, Marcus. You sold your father's belongings. You discarded 90 years of family history like it was trash. Those things are gone forever. How do I forgive that? I don't know. But I want to try to make it right. You can't make it right. You can pay the money you owe me. That's all you can do. Can I at least visit sometimes? Can we have a relationship? I thought about it. Really thought about it. No, I finally said. I don't trust you. I'll never trust you again. You can't have a relationship without trust. So that's it? I'm your son, and you're just cutting me out of your life. You cut yourself out when you decided my house was more important than my life. He stood there crying. I felt nothing. No sympathy. No maternal urge to comfort him. He'd killed whatever maternal love I had when he threw away my wedding dress and laughed about it. The payments need to continue, I said. On time. That's the only relationship we have now. debtor and creditor. Mom, that's all, Marcus. You need to leave now. He left. I watched on my camera as he sat in his car for 10 minutes, crying. Then he drove away. A week later, Jessica sent me an email. Estelle, I know you hate me. I understand why, but I need you to know that this has destroyed our marriage. Marcus is depressed. He barely works. He talks about you constantly. This is tearing our family apart. Please, for his sake, find a way to forgive him. He's your son. I read the email twice. Then I blocked her address. Jessica didn't get to tell me how to feel. She didn't get to make Marcus's pain my responsibility. They destroyed my life for their own gain. Now they were facing consequences. That wasn't my problem to fix. 8 months after everything happened, I was in my living room when my doorbell rang. The camera showed a young woman in her 20s. I didn't recognize her. I opened the door cautiously. Can I help you? Mrs. Williams? I'm Hannah, Marcus's daughter. I stared at her. Marcus doesn't have a daughter. He does. I'm from his first marriage, before Jessica. He doesn't talk about me much. This was news to me. Marcus had been married before? Had a daughter I'd never met? Why are you here, Hannah? Because I heard what he did to you. And I wanted you to know that he did the same thing to my mom. And to me. I invited Hannah inside. Made her tea. Listened to her story. My mom married Marcus when they were both 23, Hannah said. I was born a year later. They divorced when I was 5. I never knew Marcus was married before Jessica. He doesn't talk about us. Pretends we don't exist. My mom got full custody because of what he did. What did he do? Hannah took a breath. When I was 4, my mom got really sick. Pneumonia that turned into sepsis. She was in the hospital for 3 weeks. Marcus had me during that time. He also had keys to our apartment. I already knew where this was going. He cleaned out the apartment. Took everything valuable. My mom's jewelry, her grandmother's silver, furniture, even some of my toys. When she got out of the hospital, the apartment was half empty. Oh my God, she confronted him. He said he'd been storing things for safekeeping, but he'd already sold most of it. Used the money for himself. She divorced him 6 months later. The judge gave her full custody and told Marcus he had serious character issues. I sat back, processing this. He did this before. This isn't the first time. No. And honestly, when I heard what he did to you, his own mother, I wasn't surprised. Just sad, because he never changed. He's still the same person who stole from my sick mom 20 years ago. Does he see you? Have a relationship with you? He sends a birthday card every year with $50. That's it. No calls, no visits. Nothing real. I think he's ashamed, or maybe he just doesn't care. Why are you telling me this? Because I wanted you to know you made the right choice. Cutting him off, not forgiving him. My mom tried to maintain a relationship for my sake. It didn't work. He just disappointed us over and over. Eventually she gave up too. Where's your mom now? Colorado, remarried to a good man. Happy. It took her years to get there, but she did. Hannah finished her tea. I should go. I just wanted you to know his history, what he's capable of, so you don't feel guilty about protecting yourself. Thank you, Hannah. That means more than you know. She stood to leave, then turned back. You know what the saddest part is? He had 2 mothers who loved him. Yours and mine's love. And he threw both away for money and houses. Some people just can't see what matters. After she left, I sat in my living room for a long time. Marcus had done this before. To his first wife. To the mother of his child. This wasn't a one-time mistake. This wasn't grief or stress making him act out of character. This was who he was. I'd spent months wondering if I was too harsh. If I should forgive him. If I was being a bad mother by cutting him out. Hannah had just given me absolution. Proof that I'd made the right choice. That night, I updated my will. Made it ironclad. Everything, the house, my savings, my possessions would go to charity when I died. Marcus would receive exactly $1 and a note. You already took enough. I also wrote letters. To be delivered after my death. One to Hannah, thanking her for her honesty and leaving her $5,000. One to my neighbors, thanking them for being true family. And one to Marcus. Just 3 sentences. You had a mother who loved you. You had a daughter who needed you. You chose greed over both. I hope it was worth it. A year after everything happened, all the payments had been made on time. Marcus and Jessica had paid back $12,000 of the $35,000 they owed. $23,000 to go. My house was fully furnished again. Not with my original possessions, those were gone forever, but with things that made it feel like home. I joined a support group for elder abuse survivors. Met other people whose families had stolen from them, manipulated them, taken advantage of their trust. I learned I wasn't alone. This happens more than anyone wants to admit. I also started volunteering at a legal aid clinic, helping other elderly people document abuse, file restraining orders, protect their assets. I turned my pain into purpose. Marcus tried to contact me twice more over that year. Once by showing up at my door, I called the police and they escorted him away with a warning. Once by having Jessica's mother call me, I hung up. The message was clear. We were done, not because I enjoyed cutting off my son, but because I'd learned something important. Forgiveness isn't always possible. Some betrayals are too deep, some actions can't be undone, and sometimes the healthiest thing you can do is walk away. My neighbors threw me a birthday party when I turned 69. 30 people showed up, people who cared about me, people I trusted. Mrs. Patterson made a toast to Estelle, who taught us all that you're never too old to stand up for yourself. Everyone raised their glasses. I looked around at these people, my real family, and I realized something. I'd lost my son. But I'd gained something more important. I'd gained my dignity back, my power, my life, and no one, not Marcus, not Jessica, not anyone, would ever take that from me again. 2 years after everything happened, the final payment arrived. A check for $1,000 from Marcus and Jessica Williams, $35,000 paid in full. The debt was settled. I deposited the check and closed that chapter of my life. I later heard through the neighborhood grapevine that Marcus and Jessica had divorced. The financial strain of the payments, combined with Marcus's depression and guilt, had destroyed their marriage. Jessica moved back to Atlanta to live with her parents. Marcus was living in a small apartment, still working as a real estate agent but struggling. I felt nothing when I heard this. No satisfaction, no sympathy, just nothing. They'd made their choices. They were living with the consequences. As for me, I was thriving. At 70 years old, I was healthier than I'd been in years. Physical therapy had helped me recover fully from the stroke. I walked 2 miles every morning. I'd lost weight, gained strength, felt better than I had in a decade. My house, my beautiful Victorian house that my grandparents bought in 1932, was fully mine again. Protected, secure, safe. I'd installed a state-of-the-art security system. Cameras everywhere, all visible. Motion sensors. Alarm system connected directly to the police. Anyone who came to my property knew they were being watched. No one would ever violate my home again. I'd also gotten my legal affairs completely in order. Will updated and notarized. Healthcare directives. Power of attorney assigned to my lawyer, Robert Chen, someone I trusted. Everything documented and protected. Marcus would inherit nothing. That was final. Instead, my estate would be split between charities that help elder abuse victims, a scholarship fund for teachers in my name, and gifts to the neighbors who'd stood by me. Hannah, Marcus's daughter, would receive $25,000. She'd shown me more kindness as a stranger than my own son had shown me as family. The house itself would become a foundation property, a resource center for elderly people facing financial abuse from family members. My story would help others. My pain would have purpose. I still had the videos, all of them, backed up in 3 places. Sometimes I watched them, not because I enjoyed the pain, but because I needed to remember. I needed to remember that people will show you who they are if you pay attention. I needed to remember that trust, once broken, can never fully heal. I needed to remember that sometimes the people who are supposed to love you will hurt you the most. And I needed to remember that it's okay to protect yourself. Even from family, especially from family. My name is Estelle Williams. I'm 70 years old. I had a stroke, recovered, and discovered that my son was stealing my entire life. But I fought back. With cameras, with evidence, with lawyers, and with boundaries, and I won. Not because I got all my belongings back. I didn't. Most of what they took is gone forever. But I won because I reclaimed my power, my autonomy, my home, my life. If this story helped you, if you've dealt with family members who took advantage of you, if you've struggled with setting boundaries with people you love, support Big Mama with a super thanks or join as a member. Now I want to hear from you. Have you ever had family members steal from you? Have you ever been taken advantage of by people you trusted? How did you protect yourself? Share your story in the comments below. If this is your first time here, subscribe and turn on notifications. We share real stories like this every single day. Real family drama, real consequences, real justice. Next time, I'll tell you about a grandmother who discovered her daughter was taking out credit cards in her name and running up $60,000 in debt. What she did when she found out will leave you speechless. Until then, remember this. Trust is earned, not owed. Even from family, especially from family. You have the right to protect yourself. You have the right to set boundaries. You have the right to say no to people who take advantage of you. And if you need proof that someone is violating your trust, get cameras. Document everything. Protect yourself with evidence. Because the sad truth is this. Sometimes the people closest to you are the ones you need protection from. Stay safe. Stay strong. And never let anyone make you feel guilty for protecting what's yours. Big Mama loves you. Take care of yourself.